Maybe it will escalate, which is a possibility, and that would be bad. Maybe Congress will assert itself and push the tariffs back down. Or maybe, and I guess this is the most likely outcome, he will find other legal methods to achieve what he thought he'd achieved with the Emergency Powers Act. So I think the likelihood is that we end up where we thought we were.
Now, Donald Trump's new global tariffs came into effect a few hours ago. Importers will be charged 10% of the value of their goods going into the States, but it could have been worse. The president had threatened 15% tariffs. And as our business correspondent Dominic O'Connell was telling us, there are lots of exceptions. What happens in future weeks is very uncertain, and the one thing that can really harm the economy is, of course, uncertainty. So how will British businesses and consumers be affected? We're joined by Sir Howard Davies, a former chairman of NatWest, who's now a professor at Sciences Po in Paris. Morning to you, Howard.
Good morning.
I asked this question with a due sense of caution and dread, but do we actually have any sense of what is actually going to happen here?
No, we don't, because initially he said he was going to replace the Supreme Court, the tariffs the Supreme Court ruled were unlawful with a 10% one. Then he said he was going to be across the board 15%. At that point, the UK would have actually been the biggest loser because we had negotiated a deal below that. So Brazil and China would have won, and the UK and Australia and Singapore would have lost. Now we understand that, in fact, for the time being, it is going to be 10%, which puts us pretty much back where we thought we were, although in relative terms, of course, we're still worse off because other people had got higher tariffs and they will come down. But where we go from here, I don't know. Maybe it will escalate, which is a possibility, and that would be bad. Maybe Congress will assert itself and push the tariffs back down. Or maybe, and I guess this is the most likely outcome, he will find other legal methods to achieve what he thought he'd achieved with the Emergency Powers Act. So I think the likelihood is that we end up where we thought we were.
There's been an awful lot of chat about these tariffs. Have we actually seen impact on the macroeconomic position in this country? Have we seen what's been now almost a year probably since he started talking about tariffs? Some have been imposed, many have been threatened. Have we actually seen a measurable impact anywhere because of them, do you think?
I think you can look at the sort of micro analysis and look and see that some areas like the distilling industry, whiskey and sales that dipped a bit, some clothing, some high-end clothing and some high-end cars have had some problems. But I think that mostly people are thinking that they were kind of deferred sales. And so the impact that we can see on the UK economy is pretty modest. Now, what we can see, however, is that the US economy is slowing down. Whether that's entirely to do with tariffs, I'm not quite so sure. And also, and this is a point that I think people miss in this analysis, the dollar has been falling. So the dollar against sterling, has gone from, it wasn't long ago, it was about 125 and now it's about 138. And that's quite a significant change. And that affects competitiveness of UK exports just as much as tariffs do. So I think that's probably the biggest threat to our exports. But, our exports to the US are between 15 and 18% from, quarter to quarter of our total exports. And so the overall impact of a slight fall there on total GDP is likely to be modest.
And actually, do you buy this view that appears to be coming out that our economy might be rebounding, it might be stronger than hitherto thought, we might be getting somewhere actually when it comes to our own economy, generally speaking?
A little bit. And I think that it's not totally astonishing if that were to be true, because, of course, we do have interest rates gradually falling. The bank's a bit reluctant to push them down faster. And also, of course, the other side of the coin of Rachel Reeves's first budget, which put up national insurance, was that she was funding an increase in government investment. Now, that takes a while to feed through for a number of reasons, but we're maybe starting to see the beginning of that. So it's not surprising that we get a little bit of upturn, but honestly, it's far too soon to call a significant change in trend.
One thing before you go, we had a story this morning about the bloated state of HR in this country. We have far more HR in this country than we do in America and in Europe. Is that a problem, do you think? We're too regulation bound, we're not productive enough, we've got lots of tokenistic flim-flam that's actually slowing corporate life down in this country?
Yeah, I was interested in those figures, which I hadn't seen before, but I have to say it does match my own personal experience. And it's more, I think, employment courts that make life quite difficult and have produced some quite surprising verdicts, employment tribunals, and that causes businesses to be very defensive and to make sure that every base has been covered before they try to dismiss or discipline anybody. So yeah, I have to say I do recognize that as a factor in business. It is true, I think, that HR departments have become much larger than they were before, and that is a significant cost.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Howard, great to speak to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's Howard Davies there, the former chairman of NatWest.